In reverse. I take that as a compliment.
Yes, because your wife is
Taiwanese American. What I experienced during the years in Shanghai was a tremendous change on the ground amongst the way that we collaborated. Of course, you cannot sell anything in China unless you have guanxi. But what I saw in some of the project teams that I managed on the ground in China was in the beginning that people were not really prepared to share information, work as a team, collaborate. And then I was very curious with people, you have to collaborate, you have to be open, you have to, in order to foster innovation, you have to share your ideas with the project team. I think there were some leftovers from the years that China were closed that made people not be so willing to collaborate. But that is now rapidly changing, and I think that we should very much embrace that. We also worked on a number of projects for very large companies similar to Huawei. And what we are seeing right now is obviously that a number of the previously state-owned enterprises in China, they want to go global. And they have previously been, monopolies. Now they have to globalize their business model. And well, how do you do that? This is a major challenge for some of these companies. And what we are helping them to do is very much to, first of all, help them set the strategic objectives, where and how do they want to compete. What should be, how should they put in place a global operating model? Because right now they are very much domestically focused on China. So how do you put in place a global operating model, global business processes, a global management team? And I think this is really, really key. In order for Chinese companies to succeed overseas, you must globalize also your management team so that you're able to go to market in different locations. Then I would say on growth. So in time I was in China, we went from 4,000 employees to 16,000 employees now in China, and we are continuing to invest massively in China as we see the potential of China to be tremendous. We want to do more and more business there. I should mention at the same time, though, that we also invested very significantly in India, and we have, in the period out of China, gone from 20,000 people to 100,000 people. So,
Henrik, thank you. Time is short. Starting on India, I got off. And now, although also interesting. Now, Philip, the question I would like to ask you is, in your opinion, how can we promote cooperation and increase business opportunities between Chinese and European companies? And we're not talking about all the trade policy issues, because that is taken care of by the EU Commission and the technical. But in broader terms, to promote cooperation and increase business opportunities between European and Chinese companies. Do you have any good suggestions here?
Yes, thank you. I think guanxi is the key. I think you have to have patience. You have to take your time. You have to understand the need and the request and the goal of the Chinese partner. And you also have to understand what your goal is, because I see a lot of European companies go to China without having a very defined goal. So it's very necessary for you to actually know where you want to go when working with China and Chinese. I think guanxi is something to do about knowledge. It's something to do about contacts. And how to get those contacts. We heard today that there are 14,000 Chinese in Denmark, and also other Chinese, around 2 million in Europe. This is a small number compared with the size of Europe, because I think that many Chinese, they think that North America is more interesting and more attractive. I'll come back to that. What can we do? I think the right way is that we make a lot of, as many as we can, by language or in educations, in schools and universities. I'm very happy to inform you that one of my assistants has 5 kids his oldest kid, he's 11 years old, took Chinese as his second foreign language. He has 4 more kids, so already there we have a number of age people that can learn Chinese in some years. And I think that is necessary. It is a long-term project, and it is a project with where there is a view to success for all involved parties. How can we make Europe more attractive to Chinese parties? I think basically very, I would say, sweet and short answer is that we can be more attractive if we, in Europe, if we execute with speed and if we are more dynamic than we are now, because Chinese people, they love to execute, they love changes, and they cannot understand why we Europeans are, or that we hate changes so much. I'm very young now, but I think that is our basic problem. As long as we are competing with North America and we are seen as being a bit old-fashioned and very conservative in that we don't want to have changes, we will have a problem attracting the best Chinese talent in Europe.
Thank you very much, Philip. And Baite, you asked for a short comment. We will have that, and then we'll take questions just to see if there are any questions from the floor. Please.
Okay, I want to say something about just Ms. Zhou's discussion. Because how to say, I think if you can say transposition, you will agree or disagree my opinion or his opinion. Because Ms. Zhou introduced is a traditional company culture, 面子关系, is very important for a Chinese company. But now we are in Europe, and we are in this international environment. So you cannot only follow up the Chinese traditional culture. Huawei has 22 regional headquarters, which covers more than 100 countries. So because we are in this international environment, we have to find a combination for both culture, local and China. So it's why I said there is not big difference if you join this company. So just accept the company culture. And then for the Chinese company, when you in this country, you must understand there are some traditional culture. So we can cooperate very well together, and how we can go down.
Thank you, Baite. Just before we continue up here, if there are some questions from the floor, there's, yes, there. Yes, this is a Danish person with the glasses. Yes,
yeah,
please.
I'm actually British, but that doesn't mind.
I'm
actually British, but it's okay.
So sorry, you're European.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question for the. Thank you. I have a question for the partner from the law firm, Mr. Graf. Law is part of culture, and culture is also part of law. Do you see the challenges of complying with law in Europe as a barrier or an opportunity, or as a very neutral thing for Chinese businesses?
I think in most cases, actually, we are quite uniform in Europe, even because we have so much of our law that is now based on EU directives. And if you compare with, for example, the United States, you have a lot of local laws, state laws compared to federal laws. So in that sense, in many cases, I do not think that there are more barriers in Europe than in, for example, the United States.
Thank you. This lady.
Thank you. I'm Zhang Yao from Copenhagen Business School. My question regards the openness of Europe to Chinese investment. We hear recently of Chinese Trojan horse into Europe, and when Huawei tried to recruit former employees or employees of Sony Ericsson, I heard that a lot of people are also concerned. So is Europe really open, and how about Denmark? If, for instance, Chinese Goldwind tries to acquire Vestas, would the Danish government stand by and watch?
I don't see anyone around here to answer the last question.
Maybe so this question is for you.
I think there was a question on Huawei. In general, as head of the Trade Council said, Ambassador Lauritsen just said in the former session here, that we are, Denmark, like other European countries, we're very much welcome all Chinese investments. And I don't see any single case until now where there has been a problem. And I cannot foresee any in the future. But let's see what happens in the future anyway. We're very much welcome to all Chinese investments. On Huawei.
So I think that lady just mentioned about the Huawei recruitment. Yes, am I right? Yes, actually we are very open to international talent. And this is why we set a branch office in so many countries. So, but for the company, we only have some, not very open just for the customer employees, because we have very good cooperation with customers. We cannot just dig out customers' key employees. But besides that, we are very open for all kinds of talents. It's really a good resource for a company to grow up.
So for all kinds of talents.
All kinds of talents.
Was there another question here? Then I have one question to the panel here. When do you have any idea, or when do you foresee that, for instance, a Chinese person born and raised in China will reach the top of the leadership in a European company? And the other way around, when will a European born in Europe, raised in Europe, possibly reach the top level in a Chinese company? We see that in Europe this happens not that often, but it happens that nationals from one European country goes to the top in another nation's company. Because that also shows a much stronger integration between the countries. Do you have any guess on that, or do we already have seen this?
Well, I think to a large extent you've seen it in terms of Chinese companies going global, that they are trying to get international executives to join them to help them go global. Probably we haven't seen that much yet the other way around, but I'm sure it's coming. We just need to continue to embrace globalization and openness and workforce that can move across borders, so we can staff our projects anywhere in the world with whatever kind of skills and competencies we need for those projects. So we need to continue to push those skills and make sure that borders are open, and generally there shouldn't be any issues with Chinese meeting a European firm or the other way around. We are all part of the same team, we're all in the same boat. So I see it happening very, very quickly.
Interesting. Any of other panel members?
I'm a little bit conservative in this case. I think, technically, nothing will prevent a Chinese guy to become the top executive of European companies. It's just about the capability. If anybody capable of doing that, the British or the European and the company would accept a Chinese guy become the CEO or director of the largest international companies. But I'm not able to say the way around at the moment, because the most of largest company of Chinese company is still be controlled by state. I'm quite open. They will not allow any British, European, American guy to run the Chinese company because of a lot of state interest and confidential information. So the guy running a Chinese company must be appointed by the Communist Party of the provincial or central committee. That's my question.
So one last question. to ask Mark from my side. Yes, one very fast question.